Okay, here we go, racers. It is now race 6 of the 2021-2022 season. Yorkshire Tour of Tewit. Well, the reverse KOM comes right after the start, really, and then Pot Bank Wall is very steep. Is all I'm going to tell you here. Is either 3 or 4 laps. I have to say that I absolutely love this course. I did it for the first time as part of the recon, and the more time I spent just looking at it, the more I think this is the absolute perfect racetrack. Racetrack? No, that's not right. Race route. So A's and B's do 4 laps, and C's and D's do 3 laps. That's 43.8 with 800 meters of climbing, or 33 kilometers with 600 meters of climbing. There is one intermediate on this lap, on each lap, and that is the reverse KOM, which happens 800 meters into each of the laps. Just a quick recap, you know this already. First across the line and FTS available every time you go through. First across the line is the first 10 riders getting across the line. They get from 10 down to 1 points. Fastest through segment, FTS, you get an entry every time you go through this segment, but it is the fastest 10 through, not the first 10 through, that gets 20 down to 2 points, which means you could be the last person through, the last rider through that segment, but if you're fastest, you get the points. Anyway, and then there's that, and then there's the finishing position, which is from 40 down to 1 point, depending on your position. In this race, we've got 3 power-ups as always. Those power-ups will be given at the start gate and at the KOM gate. So you will have, well, to start with, you will have no power-up the first time through the KOM. Just be conscious of that. The 3 power-ups you can choose from, or will be chosen for you, are the truck, which increases your draft effect for 30 seconds, the anvil, I keep wanting to say anchor, but it's not, the anvil, which gives you more weight for 15 seconds, and of course the feather that gives you a decreased weight, makes you lighter for 15 seconds. A couple of slides down, I've got some full details on where I think they're most useful. Bike choice here, this is all up or down. There is no flat. It's not quite true. There's about 400 meters of flat, right 2/3 of the way along. A balanced bike wins out for me. I think if we were to, if I was to get Zwift Insider to run specific tests on this, which I sometimes do but haven't done here, I say get, that's not right, then I'm pretty sure that Tron would win out against all the aero options, just because there are so many hills here. So I think Tron wins. But if you're a particularly light rider, you may want to go for an aero bike to give you a little bit more help on the downhills. And if you are a sprinter, and a pretty hefty sprinter, I guess, then you will potentially want to look at a lighter weight option, because you know you'll be able to keep up while you are on the downhills rather. Okay, so there you go. I think Tron is the way to go on this one. So why do I think this is the perfect race route? Well, it is all up or all down, no flat. And what that means is if you're a climber, you get to excel on those hills. If you're a heavier rider, you get to really you let your weight help you out on the descents down. If you're a puncher, if you kind of can go up those short punchy climbs, but you are not so light as it's a detriment on the descent, then I think this is your day. So there we go. All right, let's just jump on and take a look at my at the DS notes. Of course, it would be wrong of me to not say at every possible opportunity, the best way to consume the DS notes is really to download them. There's a link in the top right corner to do that, absolutely free of charge. Let's take a look at what we've got here. So the distances for the key points, which are mainly the ups and downs of those hills, for laps 1, 2, 3, and 4. I put the separator there for 4, just for you sporty Cat AB types. which I am certainly not. So there we go. I've broken it down, as I say. The KOM reverse is in orange, and I think that's a critical point, but do with that as you will. Jumping on, let's take a look at the key attack points for each lap. I've got eight key attack points for each lap for you here. If you're too lazy to go through the whole DS notes, I think these are the points that will make a critical difference to you, whether it's where to use a power up most effectively or where to put the power down to greatest effect. So for all the laps except the first lap, you will have a power up as you approach the KOM. For the first lap, of course, the pen starts after the start-finish gate. So there's no power up available. If you pick up an anvil or the draft van going through the start finish gate, I think you need to use it almost immediately as that descent kicks in after the start finish gate. If though you have the feather, I think you need to leave it to where your attack starts on the KOM itself. So let's talk about that a second. The Yorkshire KOM reverse is 1.1 kilometers and average is 4%, but you can break it into 4 parts. The preamble to the KOM, so that's before the marker, it does kick up. Then you hit the KOM itself, it's around 5% for that first section. Then where you can see in the map down below, where it's a little green, it's flat for a few hundred meters. And then it steepens to around 6 or 7% on average from there to the top. I think your best bang for your buck on an attack comes after the flat. You can draft through that green area in the map, and then when it kicks up again to 7%, that's when you put the power down and make the difference between yourselves and the pack that you're in. And if you have the feather, that's the time to use it. Alright, moving on, you'll pick up a power up as you go through the KOM gate at the top, and I think this is where you use that power up. You keep going all the way to Pot Bank Wall. You will know when you hit the wall because it hits 20% as you're going through there. I think that's when you use the feather to most effect, although you could use it on any one of these rises. I think the next lightning bolt key attack point I've got is on that final climb. If you're lighter weight, I think that is the time that you can stretch the distance out between you and the pack behind, because what's coming is a fairly long downhill and you will need to have created a little bit of a break so you're not at a disadvantage through that hill. But for those puncheurs or heavier sprinters, then I think the time you make your final attack is as you hit you crest that hill and you come down the other side. That's when you really put the power down, and if you've got the anvil or you have the draft van, that's the time to use it. I think those for me are the 8 points that will make a complete difference to the way that you approach this particular race. Alright, I started just before the gate there, but here we are passing through the pens themselves, and this is where you'll come onto the field. It was a very busy day in Yorkshire when I did this. Here's the 3D Velo Viewer view of the lap. There's no easy way around it, and there's no flat. There's this short downhill we've already hit, and then you're straight into the KOM from there. After that is all up or all down. Alright, we're on a hill now, and this is the preamble that I talked about ahead of the KOM itself. So you can see as we go past the pump house and we rise up, it's going to hit 11%, 15%, and that's before we hit the KOM. Now, it's not that bad on the KOM. It's 1.1 kilometers long, 4% on average, but I do break it into 3 sections. This first section that we're on is 5% for only about 100 meters, and then it drops to less than 2% that is draftable for a little while, and then after that it picks up to an average of 6 or 7% for the remainder. So you can see this section we're on now is still draftable. pausing to take a breath. Still draftable as we're going on. 300 meters is long enough in the middle of this hill that it allows you to kind of pace yourself and sit in the group. My recommendation, if you're going for it on this, if you're looking at either FTL or FAL points here, you wait until you're through this section before really punching it. All right, we're up to 6-7% now. This is the time to start to make your break. If you've got the legs for it, this is the time to really stretch ahead of the pack that's behind you, hopefully. In the mini-map now we can see the turning, the sharp right-hand turn, and the gate is just past that turning. And you can see it on the main view as well. It's where those barriers are, that's where the turning is. So you know that you're almost through the climb. And as it drops to 5% and below, it's draftable again. If you're not breaking away, you can feel comfortable that at least you can draft. And then for the downhill, there is super tuck potential, but it isn't for long, and you have to really go for it to get up to speed. There's also a flat bit in the middle that will ruin your super tuck if you're not careful. So you can see a lot of this is at -5, -6, -7. Flattens out. So if you did get up to super tuck, you have to pedal through this. And then we're back on the descent again. Crossing the river marks the end of the descent, and it's back up. Power on, and now you've got 1.1 kilometer, averaging 4%, and then it eases towards the top. So the bottom part averages 6%, and then it eases to sub 4% as you get past the first 600 meters. These are all relatively long climbs. 1.1 kilometers is pretty average. I think the last one was 1.1. It's really important to pace yourself as you're going up here. Oh, stand by for a message. Shameless plug for the coffee club. These are all of the contributors to the coffee club in the month of October. I'm not sure what I'll do next week when we're not in October anymore. But there we go. Massive, great thank you to everyone of these names that are popping up here. Special mention to Simon, Nathan, Dave, and of course Eric Min. That's not the only way to help, of course. Here's what I would love for you to do if you want to help the channel out. First, tell your cycling buddies and friends, preferably Zwifters, preferably racers, about the channel. Let them take a look at it. Like and subscribe this video, or like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and download the notes. If you think they'll be useful to you, and many of you do, please do download them completely free of charge and share them with everyone on your team. All right, that's enough of the shameless plug. Let's move on. Slight bump up as we round the corner, and then we hit the descent. There's no super tuck here. I don't think it gets above 3.5% descent, but speeds will increase, so don't get caught out as the group that you are in accelerate. You should be resting yourself though as much as you can, because the next big bump is going to be the wall, and when we get there you'll see why it's called the wall.
Are we part of this circus? Is it innate? Feels like a heavy burden. All
right, we just bump up 3%. Pop bank and the wall. It averages 8% over 760 meters, but it reaches 20% over that steepest part. I think this is one of the hardest walls that you hit in Zwift, just because for this short period of time, it really just rocks you. But you have to punch through this small section, and then once you're through it, it eases quite significantly. What I find is useful for me is to push as hard as I possibly can, almost like a sprint up this section, and then just settle in to a more gentle pace, a more measured pace. But that's just me. You'll have your own strategy, but what I would advise is having a strategy before you hit that wall. If you have to rewind this section and watch it a couple more times just to see what it's like, or even get out and try it yourself, then you should do that. I say punch through the pain. It's been going there for about 30 seconds, so that's a big punch. But it is sub 10% from this point onwards. It comes to something when sub 10% is a rest.
Highly sedated, intoxicated, we're automated.
Now the worst really is over. It's just 5% for the next 300 meters.
In a stream, swimming towards a vicious dream.
And you can see from the gradient marker in the right top that it's really dropping down now, 3-4%. So pace will really pick up now.
Somehow they got into our heads. We're wide awake, yet still asleep.
But this is not the time to rest. You really have to keep pushing here because there's no real descent after Pot Bank. It's fairly flat. There's even a little bit more uphill as we go along here, but it rounds to flat as we're going down here. And as I say, this falsie is the closest thing to a flat we're going to see today. 600 meters false flat and then a little descent at the end.
Everything they scream. Don't you know we're the walking dead. Our lives were meant to be this bleak. Somehow they got into our heads. We're wide awake.
All right, it's going to drift downwards now, averaging minus 3% for 600 meters.
We're the walking dead. Oh, 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 oh. We're the walking dead. We're the walking dead. Oh, oh.
We're closing in on the end of the lap. This is that hill, the last of the hills that I told you earlier on. If you're a climber and you're looking to make ground or even hold ground on the last lap, this is the time to punch it. It's 400 meters averaging 6.5%. It briefly hits 9% there in the middle somewhere. But what follows is a downhill that takes you almost all the way to the finish line. If you're a climber, you want to be very careful not to get left behind on the descent. So now's the time to make it your break. There you can see we just hit the 9% level and it stays there for a little while. Almost at the top now. Hopefully you've separated yourself enough from the herd. No meanness intended to the herd race teams, who I know watch this. Hello herd. Here we go, 400 meters, average 6.5%, briefly 9, onto the flat. You got a short flat to recover, but particularly on the last lap, this is when pace is going to really push. And now we're on the downhill. It's all downhill except for the last couple of 100 meters. If you've got the anvil, you want to push it now. You might be able to super tuck. I would love to hear in the comments if you do super tuck at all down here. But be very careful not to waste your time. It's mostly -5, -4%, so there's not that much opportunity to get above 5% and super tuck, but you never know.
You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free.
On the mini map, you can see the left-hand turn. That signifies when it's going to be flat.
Spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win every way. You show me how to spread my wings.
We'll come into view as we make it round this bend. There it is. It's all flat from here.
Yes, I'm the winner.
100 meters from here. 50. That's your lap. All right. As usual, I will leave you with the slideware, the race on a page, the DS notes, the attack points, and the bike choices. This is a really tough day in the saddle, in my opinion. I think it's the hardest ride we've had so far for the ZRL or ZRL for our American compatriots. But it is a great route, as I said earlier on, and I hope you have a wonderful time. So between now and then, everybody ride on.